Have a good day.
He was ticketing the car right next to me before I left. That's crazy. Last minute, dude. Bro, they take it to the visitor's box then.
Bro.
Have you all gone through like
I know, that's what I'm saying. How do you know?
He's trying that next class.
bro, have you seen the web?
How do they or because you have to start, you have to make your own. At least I worked with you today. No, I'm having it.
Like basically if you like mess with solutions, they change the color.
Yeah, it'll want to go back to the
And you need to like basically make 6 different by adding stuff. It doesn't make sense.
I'm just gonna look at
You just need to make like primary colors.
And you have to do like basically the entire level. Because you have to figure out what to add.
So you have to make your own procedures.
Thank God for Outlash. Getting the
The
Outlash.
one who's in class.
Yeah.
Not getting me.
Wait, is that one of our classes?
I have Outlash on Thursday.
Wait, today is it?
Are y'all going to be okay? Oh.
Actually, I'm going to Mine's back now. We should have heard
Marsh.
But I have the answer. Like an 89.6.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, we're gonna start off with the mini quiz, and it is no calculator, so I'd need your desk cleared off before you flip it over and start. your desk is cleared over, you can take it over. If your desk is cleared off, you don't flip it over. Okay, so 2 more questions. Right, from what I told you to look over. They are worth 2 points apiece this time instead of 1 point apiece. And that means I can give partial credit. So you lost a point last time for getting something small, because if your final answer wasn't correct, I can't give you equal points. But this one, you can still get 1 of the 2 points if you forget something small, but of course you should be aiming for it.
Thanks.
Please wait quietly as you finish.
If you're still working, that is fine, but you need to wrap it up here in just a minute. For the rest of us, let's go ahead and move on. So a quick reminder about ACTM. If you're interested in signing up for that, and I believe this year, isn't New Alpha Theta giving you like some hours or something for doing that? Okay, but to be signed up, remember there is a $5 fee. So by next week, if you're interested in doing that, I have to have your name with your $5 or I can't sign you up. It's just a process. I have to get the money to somebody on campus, and then they have to turn it into a check, and then they have to send it to the university. So if you miss that deadline, there won't be anything I can do to squeeze you in. So if that's important to you, then please make sure you're taking care of that. Okay, I have one little handout for us today, and this is over logarithmic integration. And I wasn't quite sure if this would be too useful or not, because I've already told you the thing that you had to know for this, but I also didn't think it would hurt. So we'll not integrate all of these, but we'll just make sure that we know what the process is. So the thing that you have to know for these is from last semester when we took the derivative of natural log. What did that come out to be? Okay, and plus c or not?
Not that we did.
No, not with derivatives. Then if we undo that, if we integrate 1 over x, do you remember what that was equal to?
Absolute value.
Right, so this is the one thing that didn't just completely be the opposite. You have to have these absolute value signs, and of course a plus c. So I've already told you that, but I'm not sure that you've seen many practice questions like this. So let's look at a couple that don't need any special tricks. We can just use this, maybe do some fraction tricks, and then look at a few of these that would fit this format with U substitution. So first off, if there is a number here, like this 5, all it's going to do is make your answer 5 times bigger. Whether you're talking about a derivative or an integral, you multiply it by 5, the rate that something's changing is going to be 5 times bigger. So in this case, all you had to do is have that part memorized, make sure you don't forget the absolute value sign, and that's all there is to it. Nothing special other than having those two things that are highlighted at the top memorized and ready to use. You may want to put those on your paper. But just in case you didn't know, it doesn't just have to be an x. It could be something like an x plus 1. If I want all of this in my denominator, I could do natural log of all of that stuff. And as long as there's not a chain rule to that, then that works out fine. Remember that you can always check your answers by taking the derivative. Make sure it goes back to what it started with. All right, and then before we talk about U substitution with these, just so you know, you don't always have to use U substitution. Some stuff doesn't need it, and some stuff it's a lot easier if you use algebra. So specifically in this question, I really suggest that you split apart your fraction. So instead of trying to integrate this, which by the way does not work with U substitution, you could put the x squared over x, and then you could put the 4 over x, and then you can integrate those separately. I'm just splitting apart my fraction. Because x squared over x becomes x, and that's really easy to integrate. Make sure you're integrating and not doing derivative. And then over here, this is the part that we're focused on this worksheet, so how would this integrate? Absolute value. Now, I split this up into 2 parts, so do I need a plus c here and a plus c here?
Or just bracket in there.
Why don't we need 2 plus c's?
Because it would just be added together anyway.
Right, some unknown number plus some unknown number, it's just going to be some different unknown number, so we always just write it once. Although I guess it technically is not wrong if you do that. There is I think I've mentioned before, there's two people that are super famous for calculus stuff. And before we get to the AP exam, I am going to ask that you guys watch one of their review videos, partly so that you can see if it's useful to you, because it often is useful to them. But he is kind of notorious for always saying he doesn't have his students do plus C, he has his students do minus C. Do you understand why that's okay?
It can be a negative.
Right. It makes C the opposite of what it was, but we still don't know what it is, right? And his argument is it's a lot quicker to just do a minus sign than a plus sign. He says that you save time doing that. So anyway, I'm sticking with plus C, but just so you know, it's an unknown number, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, the rest of these have some sort of chain rule involved. So unless it's really basic and you can undo it in your head, like I think you could probably get away without doing U substitution on question 4. And so we can look at it, that one that way. To get all of this stuff in the denominator, how do you think this is going to integrate? Okay, so natural log of 2x plus 5 and a c. But then, here's what you got to do if you don't want to do your substitution, which I don't necessarily agree with. If I take the derivative of this, what do I get? What's the natural log, the derivative of the natural log of 2x plus 5? Okay. Times 2 because of chain rule, right? So this is multiplying by a 2 that I don't want. So you can put the 1/2 out there, but that's what U substitution does for us. So that's why I don't recommend trying to undo that. But I guess it doesn't hurt for you to see that. What I want you to see in question 5 is that there's not something in a trig function, there's not something being squared, so it's a little bit harder to see what U should be. It's not necessarily something trapped under something. Yeah.
Is 4 still absolute value of that?
Oh, yes, this should be absolute value. Thank you. So your U can be your denominator. In fact, I think that's true of most of these. If we pick this as our U, and then we solve for our du, we would get that. And I don't want 2x dx, I want 1x dx. So when I rewrite all of this stuff, it ends up being 1 over u times 1/2 du. Are you guys okay with how I'm making that substitution? X dx is 1/2 du, and the rest was 1 over what I defined u as. That's the hard part. The easy part is now integrating this. To integrate 1 over u, natural log of absolute value of u, plug it back in, and put a plus c. Yeah.
So other times we will do like u to the -1. Is this just a separate way, but also equal way to doing?
No, and that's a good question. Let's say we tried to rewrite this as, instead of saying this, we said u to the -1, right? Now let's try to integrate this. How do we undo power rule?
Raise 5 by 1.
And then how do you divide by 0? So that undoing the power rule doesn't make sense when it's an exponent of -1 like this. You can't just do that, and that's why we need this natural log property. It solves a problem that the other way doesn't do. Okay, so now let's zip through these. 6, if we picked our denominator to be u, then du would be exactly what the numerator is, which is perfect. So all of this would be like 1 over u du. Y'all okay with that substitution? Again, this is not helpful if I'm going too fast. So, and I'm not going to integrate all of these because that's not what our focus is. But again, to integrate this, you just have to know what we put at the top and then plug your x back in for use. U should not be in your answer because there wasn't U's in the original question. U substitution is just a process that helps us keep up with that. Okay, so on question 7, to pick out U, does the derivative of the numerator look like the denominator, or does the derivative of the denominator look like the numerator?
Derivative of the denominator looks like the numerator.
Okay, so that's what I would try. And it is not a perfect fit, but it's close. What's the difference between what I have and what they have?
You gotta divide by a factor of 3.
Right, everything is 3 too big, so divide everything by 3. And this becomes 1/3 1 over U du, which is then easy to integrate. If there's any of these, I'm going to skip integrating a lot of these, but if there's any of them you want me to finish, if any of them look hard to you, we can do that. Okay, 3 more. What would you pick out for you on question 8?
Natural log of x.
Okay, what's that going to make du be? And dx. You need the dx. So then we could rewrite all of this to be, how would this change?
Is it just u du? U squared du?
Yes. U squared du. Again, I'm not integrating it, but I think you should feel okay at that point. All right, question 9. I'm going to just take this opportunity to do, like, sometimes I think you guys spend too much time trying to pick out what you think you should be. It's like, it's almost like you guys are picking a path and you're afraid, like, you're going to spend too much time on it. So I want you to see that if I pick the wrong U on a question, if you just go with it and write it down, you're going to see that there's no good fit for this stuff. Like, this could be U, but then there's no way for me to get 1 plus sine t in the denominator times a dt that's not in the denominator to match up with this stuff. It's okay to pick the wrong U. In fact, it's better to pick what you think and just move on instead of wasting a bunch of time worried that you're going to pick it wrong. Pick a U, figure out what du is. It's either going to be perfect fit or close to perfect fit, otherwise you should try something else. Okay, so for this one I want you to try to write it out before I plug it in. Write what it would be in terms of U, not in terms of t's. Okay, you go with 1 over U du, which would integrate as, you didn't have to integrate it, but natural log of absolute value of U plus a c. The integration part is the easy part. The rewriting it in terms of U is what we've been working on for a while. Okay, and then to finish up, a good reminder of this one, because this was something that you don't get to use very much. What do you think U should be in this question? Secant x minus 1. Okay, let's try it. What's the derivative of secant x minus 1? Very good. Secant x times tangent x. That's one of those that you memorized at one point, but you don't get to use it very much. So all of this becomes 1 over U du, which takes about 2 more seconds to integrate. But we got what we needed out of this. Any of those I did not integrate that you would like me to finish, to make sure that you know how to finish it if you need to?
Could you do 8 real quick?
8 would be, see, raise the power by 1, divide by the new power, put plus c, but I shouldn't leave u's in my answers because there's no u's in the question. So instead of saying u, I'm just going to put what u is equal to. Yes, because if you write it like this, it looks like you're cubing the x and not cubing the natural log of x. So you probably mean the correct thing, but the way you write it in order of operations, it would mean something different.
And then again, why does the x not have the absolute value brackets around it?
Well, I didn't integrate, I never integrated 1 over x in this question.
Okay.
I integrated u squared, which became 1/3 u cubed, but that's not integrating 1 over x.
Okay.
Based on what my u needed to be, I took the derivative of natural log of x, but when you do derivative, you don't need absolute value. It's only if you're integrating it.
So if you do the integration of 1 over x, then that's when you get the natural log absolute value of x.
Correct, yes. Okay, so I had these up a minute ago, but let me put them back up again because I do think if anything, I mean, the extra practice is great, but those are the 2 things you just have to know to be able to do those question types. So look at that for just a moment. Okay, and then before I pass back your most recent quizzes, so we can look at those, there are a couple of questions I'd like us to discuss together. I'm going to focus mostly on multiple choice here, but there's a couple things that I think you can learn from pretty quickly. So everybody had a question that looked like this, and this was not the most missed question, but it is one that was missed enough, and I think you guys just aren't pursuing all of the possibilities here. So does that look familiar? And you tried to figure out what value of k, and you had options like could be 3 or 0 or -3 or -3 and 3. So the main thing I want you to get out of this example, and again, we're not going to do every multiple choice up here. I'm going to pass your quizzes back in a minute so you can pick and choose which ones you put focus into. But this one, I just think there's a lot of good test taking stuff to get out of this. First off, I would hope that you would know one of these answers. What is one number that has to be true? Okay, how do you know -3 needs to work? Right, if you think of this as area, the area from -3 to -3, it doesn't open up at all. And if it's not opening up, you're going to have 0 area. So that should have narrowed it down to 2 choices. Then you just needed to know if 3 also worked. So how can we know if 3 works? Okay, so one thing you could do, and even if you didn't know that first part, if you weren't sure if 0 would work, you should be plug it in and integrate it by hand. It's an easy question to integrate. Plug in 3 once, plug in -3 second, subtract them, and see that you don't get 0. That was enough. Or you could keep this as k, and so this would be k, and then if you plug these things in, you would get 1/3. Plug in k the first time, plug in -3 the next time, and we want to know if that when that equals 0. So you could make an equation that you could solve for k, correct? And there's only one number that makes that work. So that's a second way. And then even a third way, I know this was no calculator, but this is going to be something I just said a minute ago. Integration is like area under the curve. Now a lot of times you can't do this, but don't you know what x squared looks like? Yeah. So what's to stop you from sketching it? Does the area from 0 or -3, is that area 0? No. Then -3 can't be your answer. Is the area from -3 to 3, is that area 0? No. So because x squared is such a basic function, you could have just sketched it real quick and thought about it as area under a curve. There's only one of those that makes sense. So I think there's like 4 different approaches to that question that would all be fine.
Wait, is the area to the left not negative area?
No, only area under the x-axis is negative. Now, if you read it right to left, like if this was k to -3 instead of -3 to k, then yes, then it would be a negative because of the direction. But okay, so I feel like, I don't know if you'll ever see a question like that again, but just keep in mind, there's several different approaches that you could do to that. It was missed a little too much for that reason. Okay, another one was, so I think there's 4 of these. This was probably the one that took the least amount of work. You had something like this, and I think if you had, depending on the form that you had, it could be slightly different, but basically this, and it wants to know the derivative. So when we want to take the derivative of an integral, what is that called? Second fundamental theorem. And the second fundamental theorem says, as long as this is just a number, what do we do? So this becomes the square root of 1 plus x squared cubed would be, and then there's only one other thing, this is one of the wrong answers. There's one other thing you have to consider sometimes. Times the chain rule. Now when we did this, we did like 10 book questions, and it took like 3 minutes. And I warned y'all that because it was so easy that a lot of times students don't worry about it, and then you often forget about it. So when you get your quiz back in a minute, if you see that you forgot this, that's an easy fix. Important concept, not much work to be done. In fact, you can go straight to the answer without showing any work on it. So remember hearing that now, though? Okay. The one that I didn't go over with my last class, but a lot of people asked about this one, was there was a question that gave you a value like this, told you a derivative, and wanted to know a value later on. So we know at time 1 what the value is, but they're asking at time 5. How are we supposed to know how something changes over time? Integration is the one that keeps up with how something changes over time. Derivatives are more about the change at one instant, not over a long period of time. So if you integrate this, this was on the calculator part, so you didn't have to integrate it by hand. Should I integrate, I guess, from 0 to 5 if you want 5? This is going to tell me how it changes between 0 and 5. Why do I not care what it changes between 0 and 5? I guess you could do that, but then you couldn't use your calculator. If you want to integrate this by hand, use this to solve for C, and then plug 5 into your function, you could do that. That's a lot of work, though. I don't care about the change between 0 and 5. I care about the change from 1 to 5 because I know the value at 1. So you have the initial, this gave you your answer. You've got your initial value plus how it changes. And I only care how it changes from 1 to 5 because I already know the value at 1. On this one, I would highly suggest one of our circuits we did. It was like every one of those questions on that circuit were set up the same way. You took your initial value plus how it changed over time with an integral. Initial value plus how it changes over time with an integral. And you guys did it a bunch, and I think that's probably the best help. But I did have a lot of questions about that one. So you might look at that if that is one that you missed. Or even if you just guessed it lucky. Okay, and then finally, last one before I give you your quizzes back and let you look at specifics for yourself. I did not tally these up, so I don't know for sure, but my guess would be the most commonly missed one was the piecewise function. Okay, so I think it's the start of this that gives you some issue here. We're trying to integrate 0 to e of f of x. Okay, does that sound familiar? Okay, so let me rephrase this for the same way for about the 5th time today. Think of this as the area from 0 to e. Well, I don't get to just integrate this stuff because this stuff doesn't exist from 0 to e. This guy exists before 1 and this guy exists after 1. So you didn't have to write it this way, but somewhere in your head you had to structure it this way. I could find the area from 0 to 1. This would give me the area from 0 to 1. And what should I be integrating there? 2x, because it's the one that exists when x is less than 1. Plus, if I take the area from 0 to 1 and add to it the area from 1 to e, which would be this one, because this is when x is bigger than 1. You understand how adding these two pieces together gives you the whole piece you wanted? Okay, and then the work to come out with the answer. And the numbers were slightly different. If you had a different form, I think this was 1x and 1 over e, so the answer was different. But integrate this, plug in 1, plug in 0, all of that goes to 1. Integrate this, this would be 2 natural log of x. Plug in e, then plug in 1. Well, what's the natural log of e? And the natural log of 1? If you remember our very first quiz we took this year, half of it was over log properties because they sneak in like this sometimes. So you were left with 2 plus 1, so on this form the answer was 3. So it's not like the calculus was hard, but you did have to figure out some way to say, I need to know all of this, and based on the piecewise function, I have to break it up into pieces. So I really think if you just word it as area, it gives your brain kind of a visual. This much area plus this much area is the same as that whole area. Okay, so if that is one that you missed, then I would recommend that maybe you retry it. Now, these are secure tests. Some of these questions are not to leave the room. So just like we looked at our test at the end of last semester, the same thing with these. You can't leave with them. I need them back before you go. You can't take pictures or copy questions down exactly the same. But you were welcome and encouraged to write down things like what you forgot, formulas you didn't use, mistakes that you made, things that you can learn from. And that is encouraged. So if you would start off with the questions I just went over to see how you did on those, and maybe try them out, see if you did them this time. And then feel free to look over any other question. I don't mind helping a little bit with FRQ today, but I want to make sure I help everyone with any of the multiple choice that they need. And specifically, why are we taking class time to look at this quiz?
Student test.
Okay, and what's the test got to do with the quiz?
Recent learning.
Basically, use of the one big thing. Your next test is chapter 5, and this stuff was from chapter 5. So some of these topics will show up by your next test. That's why you need to learn from your mistakes. Now, even though I have said this twice, this will be the 3rd time. I also have said it 3 times in my 4th period class, and it did not register with them until today when I said it the 3rd time, or at least for a lot of them. But our only grade replacement of the entire semester is our chapter 5 test. So if, just a number for hypothetical here, if you make 100 on the chapter 5 test, in gradebook, you will get 100 for the chapter 5 test, and I will go and change your 5-1, 5-4 quiz to 100 also. Now, I'm not going to change it if it hurts you. but I would hope that would be the case for anybody. But this is our only grade replacement that we offered this semester. Yeah, you might need,
Why do you have to factor changes when the bound is back?
What do you want me to do with all of them?
I don't want you to feel
Try to do worse than you do. For math or something.
Or
That's so
six.
sad.
I'm just, I've got all star auditions. Oh my god, wait, wait. Oh my god, I was talking about it too. To make all of this not but I'm still qualified. Yeah, Mr. President, okay, you can draft this or you can do this alternate assignment. And I said to myself, I'll spend a day sitting around waiting to find out that I've done it and not have a bunch of like videos and so like I turned the video and I made all of it and I qualified for all 6 rounds.
And then I didn't get to Okay, so please start looking those over. Again, if you would, start with the ones we just talked about since they should be fresh in your head.
Can you do one?
I will come by, I'm gonna come by and help individually in a minute. If I get a lot of the same question, I'll do it on the board, but otherwise I'd like to help. 1 and a half.
We have a bunch of small pieces of
Well, a little bit easier.
A little bit easier. Like these 3 scales. Yeah. Oh, Aaron's a sight reading.
You know I got 3. I mean, you know I got C.
Guess what it had?
What's your time back? You from your
It was the piece I played I went into the audition not knowing anything. I sat in the audition.
I don't know what these numbers are. Are these numbers in division or acceleration numbers? Velocity numbers? I don't know.
Really down. And then I just
Like, do you think this is like velocity at 3 is negative? You need to say like
I
you get
played
3.
2 of my
You get 3, you get 4, you get 5. You gotta state
One of
like
them
what
were
those things are.
I didn't play
That
one
makes
of my
sense.
scales.
I thought you were just like
And then the other 2
avoiding.
were really bad. And then
You know what I'm saying?
like I
So I'll look back at that in a second, but I was
I feel
then
like my brain
I
just
just-
turns dumb whenever I'm in I do
No.
Or maybe not quite, just something. Something about audition. I was just showing before I went into this highway.
it's almost the same. Like what you
about
would put in the calculator
that's
for
about
good question, different bounds, is the first part of what you should do. Or the second part. Okay, you guys have to wait. Like, look at something else for a minute. There can't be just one question you have.
I only have like 1 question.
You have like 2.
Okay, then there'll be plenty of time for me to help you.
I didn't qualify, so I don't
Well, it's because I chose a small class, so it's not much competition.
If I were to
So I had a good tone and I played 30 seconds.
No, like, almost an accumulation.
That's where the answer got. No, it's part of it. Start chipping away at that.
Figure out B.
So every time I freaking
I didn't even get it.
something about
I just left it as an
I stopped thinking. Like I don't know, maybe it's the nerves, and I can't frame in a way that makes sense. Like, I can understand what it's asking us to do math, but you put it in words that aren't very specific. I got it in my head, and it just makes me like,
Actually, did you put these?
Yeah, that's like that.
What if I do this? No, you don't.
Mike, I don't know, Mike.
Oh.
Score on it. Like 0% wrong, he got all the questions right. I know. So he's not, I don't talk to him anymore.
Oh, yeah, I see.
It's just a guy. Most people are just a guy, and then you're like, we've had a couple conversations.
I just want to make sure it was.
I can't speak on his quality as a business. I've really never talked to him beyond like chat. He's just a guy.
But if they define that, you can
I did so well.
This is just.
How is that gonna affect?
Just like, and even like here,
Hey,
like
what'd
you'd
you
be
get?
better just saying it instead of writing
That's
it
the
all
approach I
down.
take the rest of the course.
Anyway, how are you guys like last part, I'm gonna find give the final answer correct, which was what time, what's the next time.
Bro, I literally went on which FRP do you have? I literally just so I wrote 21 and 6 goals, so I get better at it. Not because I couldn't figure out how to do something.
It goes down, and then you can have like a relative, yes, a relative. You always have to test the answer.
I didn't do it right, that's what I wrote down. No, I actually had three similar to that.
That's so
Was that enough? You already done looking at that?
Yeah, I see a lot of.
If there's something good to add, it's your time, but I just want to make sure before you.
I completely did not.
I don't remember how I did this. I got a 40.
I'm guessing that it was explained. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
You had to do some work to know from integrate from what to what. So if you try to grab it, plot a couple points, it was 0 to 1.
They don't tell you that. I
I still work it to be sure, but when you are sure you're done with it.
And you might have had trouble with this. I almost because I missed.
It may have been, there may have been, you wouldn't have waited for this and then.
Yeah, I
that might
can't
have
find
been
it.
2 points.
I thought it was
That computer school
I think it's back then.
You found multiple choice I can help with yet?
No thanks.
Yeah. You make that a, you simplify that into a multiple choice.
Actually, yes. Wait, sorry. There's one I missed.
Three streets. That's what I did. So then we get 18 streets.
4, 2. I had the snow one.
I'm sorry, why do I have to transfer to 3?
Hey, how'd you do that? How'd you do that?
3 was for, no. No,
You said that you did good.
I don't know. It's something like that.
Let me check out Ron Bobo. I deleted a bunch. I used to have a lot.
Square root of 2 and then, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I got it.
Square root of 2.
You should see the mayor.
I thought like 2 tries on that. Oh my god.
See, that's my fault because I don't. I didn't know what two different house was.
Next test. Whatever we did, can we say that for that test?
Set up.
Or is it just for this?
I just didn't follow that. It tripped me up.
Yeah.
Like, is that just like a very old?
He has an actual.
No, I know.
This year.
I'm supposed to know that.
The unit after that, the same way the tree.
Yeah, but like, then what's the point?
So the slope of geometric control y minus slope y. This one minus no.
Actually, I gotta work on me too. I had last year. Actually, I'm so glad I went to the other day. I missed my, and I started using it this day.
So plug it. And I think it's 5 pounds is what I got.
I'm mad about that. I was right
mostly pretty
there. I was right there. Oh, I'm delighted that I somehow made it. Clarinet. Oh, you have 82? I was doing the
I'll take a B this semester.
We don't have anything. Raise your hand if you want to be a saxophone. That was how I started my bass clarinet.
Oh yeah.
This is.
I'm not giving up.
Test on Tuesday.
That's
Oh,
This is
no, but like now you kind of know it's gonna be honest and just study like that.
Same for integral.
So this is don't actually write it down. But what is he gonna do if he writes it?
He's gonna have like the minute that was.
Like just memorize it. I memorized all the answers.
I talked about how it's different to
You just gotta memorize. That class, that helped with FRU because I think I should have gotten it because I wrote half of it.
I honestly
If you really put them in your folder back there, and then.
I really got
a lot of the advanced stuff. And a lot of basic writing in general. What did you say you had to charge your calculator?
No.
Yeah, but I think okay. I was thinking you had like a fancy one with
That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of basic writing
I got 2 myself.
How could you do that?
Man, you're kind of well, I am kind of stupid right here because really all this was just plug pull it together. Which means
That one,
Yeah, this one.
all this.
Yeah.
I got the part because it's a snowball.
I got a part one.
Did you finish it?
No.
I was doing so good. I was this fucking voice and then I got a
Get a load of this guy.
I missed one.
So what's around? What's around? I feel like
I show my work on my homework.
Oh wait, I actually love that part.
I do understand how you do this.
yeah, that's kind of what I feel like right now. It's like I can always score these guys around me. Good score.
I didn't have that. It might No, you didn't know.
I was
Quiz solver. What is wrong? Even I know that. Come on. Well, you know now, right? Are you kidding me?
No, it's okay. I will be fine. I will.
Not really. Look, it's okay. Colton. But you can also just click Alpha C. Where is it? Yep.
We're in a different realm.
See, I know how calculators work. I don't know how the math works.
Saying that one's tougher.
Yes, I just scrambling at the last minute and I just gave up. I was like, this is it. Because the time had ran out.
Let's just write this out. Let's write this out. So we're integrating from 0.
Oh wait.
We're integrating from 0.
That is a half.
And then put x. And then we.
I'm still not. No, but it's not good.
Well, it's not bad. That's always
I wanted to make it because right now I have an 80 just because of those.
You guys said what?
I get. It's just too clear. Yeah, it's like it's all.
Oh, now I realize that.
Oh, you've already.
And then I plug in like.
I don't know how I didn't get it.
I think my parents should care more about what my little brother does instead of me. At this point,
Okay, then I have to do the other one.
what?
So my sister.
He has, he's also doing OM.
Oh, that's 4K.
Here we go. He's quite stressed. He said, actually no, he don't care.
Oh, you said first.
You said first and I heard you wrong. I was like, yeah, they both have the sound of the
Yeah, it's elementary school. I don't know.
He's still in elementary.
That's like don't give kids under when they're in elementary.
Okay, now I'm just.
No, give him more realistic spaceship.
Guess when you have realistic expectations.
Oh dang, bro.
No.
You're so good.
I learned to read before I learned to walk. I learned to walk when I was like 3.
Okay, well that's.
He really wants to do that.
I was walking around.
No, wait. I'm wrong. I learned to walk when I was 3. Not terrible.
Wrong.
I learned to climb out of bed before.
That's just you.
I learned to
I'm gonna bet you like walk out of your
You're just so
I was very good.
I don't know. I didn't draw myself and I was like, oh, I'm just technique drawing languages, so now I'm kind of like making school.
Lovely. Well, at least you can speak.
I can speak two.
Yeah, at least you can speak some languages. At least you have languages. I barely have one.
Ratio.
never catch me only speaking one language.
I'm getting German. I'm almost barely 2.
Let's get in there. You go to grind.
Yeah.
So, I need it back before you go, but I'm still looking at it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just need to hear him say that I this wrong because I literally just wrote down 12 backwards because apparently I can't find 12. And so then I functioned it wrong.
It's the same.
Yeah, like literally.
I knew how to do it.
That's what's so upsetting. Yeah, I do have
I think my calculator was. I think I'm not.
Except I didn't know how to do this.
I probably just integrated it. The thing is, for like the majority of this,
But it's a different type of question, like the first average, it's an average.
and so I like did pretty much all of them.
Well, it should be,
No,
right?
didn't he say if you get 5 out of 5, we're gonna say?
How about a
He said
Dude, that's like, I heard it's like huge.
it's gonna be me.
It's like, honestly, right on the border, like, I'm not interested.
I coach. I like to. That's cat.
But it's
That's cat. That's not
It was just so busted. Yeah. I still have it.
She's not on.
It's funny because you have the puppy. That's true, that's true.
On this one, do you integrate this function from 0 to 2?
It's in my
Integrate from 0 to 2 and use the total value. Divide by 2 to give you that.
How do you know?
So he's actually not the one that gets asked by. I just need to know where this plug in number is.
We were like, what's the
It's like, no, I actually know.
Do you have any other questions?
I was supposed to like, no, but I don't know if I'm supposed to plug in. Like,
Ben, do you know if we're supposed to meet in the library for walk today?
Yes.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, you can blame it on me.
I don't think you are. I saw block there
Yeah,
earlier.
we're supposed to be. I
Okay.
saw Olivia in the library.
This is calculated.
I saw people. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
I just asked you one question, because you would answer.
It's on the schedule that we have a library.
It actually is.
Oh, I thought you
Was
said.
I supposed to plug these in OP? I was trying.
You were integrating, right?
I was sitting here.
Okay.
So like, if I wanted to get this right, I was supposed to plug in like 6 things here. Find that number, and then plug in my critical number here, and find that number.
I was joking.
You're doing so
So I
good
got
that
that
you're doing
right.
bad.
I was
By
joking.
guessing.
Well, that's not a guess.
It's a circle of them bad.
No, I mean.
The last part had 3 points. 1 point was if you had showed that you found the critical number. So you got 1 point to state what the max snow and time was.
So I had to guess one time more, which I did.
And the last point came
That
from
is
having the right
great.
value at
Oh,
the
this
critical
goes from
number
0?
at the start and at the end. So basically, ET.
I just wanted to plug in like, so if I wanted it to be 6.
I have no clue.
Number 7 lines choose English.
That's disappointing.
You substitute.
Yes. However, you is
Plus 16 plus
16 plus.
It's gonna be in that.
So then switch this. That would plug in zero.
Minus.
Number X.
Where?
It's a.
I'm just supposed to plug an X.
No. This, you don't understand what your B is. This is your function that determines any amount of snow.
Plug in.
So if you want to know I of 6, which would be your snow at
Because there's
time
no,
6,
that wouldn't
you're
work.
replacing
because
U
there's
with
natural
6.
law.
Yes.
No.
Oh, wait.
Just now.
Sorry, I got that.
But if you just type all this
Use
as
natural law,
numbers,
natural law.
and then your calculator is plugging in
And then roll when it's
you're about to put
something
6 in all
over,
those
or
places.
something over X, not X over something.
Don't tell me you just said that. Bigger number.
You're not allowed to tell me you said that.
So that means that is in.
What I'm saying is, if you put 6 in all of these, that's just the number.
So if we're bounded by the X axis, and 1
X
is in
or
positive,
T.
and 1 is in negative.
Burn them at
So
the-
we need more.
You should be changing about your thing there. It's just that should be from 0 to 100 from X to play.
So it's like. But doesn't make sense.
Do this. Figure out how much now they're looking at the critical number, because that would be this. Then finish that one, and it should be just a little bit less, but almost.
I don't know how to figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Work out at some point where it crosses.
I don't know how
You're about to do is six.
Wait, so
It's the exact same thing, but a different number.
Really?
No, that's your question. So type it all in, 1 to 6, get a number, then type it all in.
Oh!
Yeah.
No, I know, I can.
We can get a definite number.
You can get a definite number.
Not telling you to work.
Well, yes, we can.
170.
3 are like mild. 300's at like 40 shot.
X over 7 is 1 over 7.
5 would be a definite
1 over
number,
7.
right? So you have to give a definite number.
Shoot your story.
Wasn't even like.
So that means you have to multiply by 7. Because you're, you don't, there's no 1 7 times. So you have to get rid of 7.
Oh, 5 is why don't Hey,
replace, yeah, so just take the integral or secant squared. It seems like that's yes. No,
6 mile tangents.
Are the hills?
It's 200 up, 200
Graphing. Hey, there was 2 things there. One is.
What?
The what?
Velocity is 10. Oh wait, you should be integrating all. But
so that means you have, it's not like a tangent, 7 tangent. Yeah. So you know, what's the
Michelle dot Miller at Bayard.net.
Is it all caps? My IC actually.
Okay, don't look at my answers, because I know what you're
You got number 1. Revolutionized calculus.
Oh, wait.
If I say I'm going 50 miles per hour, nobody cares about your direction. Where?
I don't care what.
Okay, that is enough. I'm not.
Speed doesn't care about direction.
I think that you're doing bother with X over 7.
Right? Positive 50 miles per hour, you're going to the right or left, and negative 50 miles per hour, heading down. So 1 point was at any point when you said this could be 2 or negative 2. That was first point. And then you had the solve right away. So you could solve them with equation solver or you could graph.
Your U is just X. Yeah, but
I think the graph is easier. But yeah, you definitely need to know.
yes.
Calculator. They're almost the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Really? You sure?
Michelle.miller@g.fair.net, no caps.
Okay. I just had to run.
Okay. You're being like fully honest right
Well, what's it called when it has 2 meanings? A homonym. It's a homonym. So, no cap. I'm being straight up. That's not it. That's what does it mean when it has 2 meanings?
Equivocation.
A pun.
No.
Okay, yeah, we'll go with that. So,
Yeah, it is.
I'm being straight up with you, and there's no capitalizations. There's no capital letters.
No pun intended.
You're a funny guy, man.
That is what that is.
Yeah.
Well, if you like,
We're gonna ask him.
when it says average value, you integrate from A to B.
Really?
That's what I'm saying. And then you multiply by all the numbers you have there.
Dude, your bill's missing.
You're figuring out the number. You're dividing.
Did you?
You're in a little bit of trouble
Yes, you
anymore.
Oh.
Is that not what you're doing?
What?
Senor Williams?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't
okay.
understand.
It's like a formula way to do it. But
Spanish
you
three?
feel like
Noah
it's a formula
is
that
you don't have to
you
for the NHS.
understand you're dividing because you want average.
Bro, we're both able to do that.
No.
NHS induction.
Yeah. Multiplying by half is that.
How did you lie?
I was sick last week.
Really?
So.
What numbers?
R.I.P.
Okay.
Substitution?
I don't know his code name for code. No, I don't have his email. I never emailed him.
Yeah.
Justin. It's Justin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. It's where you.
Honestly, maybe.
What can we take the derivative of the SES?
You need it? Yeah. It was teacher of the year last year. So you just congratulating him, or? I gotta ask him to give a speech at the NHS induction. Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's Andrew.
Derivative of tangent.
Okay, just completely so much.
Dude, I really think.
Let me know what.
Put the hand down for
Is
salt.
there, is this
I know
just
what I got wrong, but I should have gotten wrong.
number 2? Is that the integration of dynamics? Or no?
No, there are bounds, it's just that you have to do some work to figure out what they do.
Yeah.
I graph a few points to just see what it looks like. I wanna see the area that's trapped in between those two things.
So we put in 1, we got a positive number. We put in 100, we got a negative number. So we know at some point from 1 to 100.
So we know that's gonna take a long time, is that right? Well, again, easy stuff like 0. When x is 0, y is. Okay. Plus 0, 16. Plug in 1 for x.
Oh,
you have to add 7 for your substitution.
And then plus C.
The more points you want to do, the more visual you have.
2 to the 4th is 16.
Right.
That was to 0.
Right, that's what you really care about.
So that's 2.
That's the map. It's just you have to know some thoughts to make it trap with the x-axis.
Means that.
Then solve it. It's saying like, x-axis, how does that affect, just like, if you don't have a bound, like,
Oh, yeah.
x equals 1, then like, what's stopping it from going forever to the right?
We have to do
What does it mean involved in the x-axis?
where it's negative 1.
Graph all of the parts, it all tracks it.
They were
This would be, so the area. Or if you don't clear the x-axis, it's like,
negative 6
it's just gonna go on forever.
He was like back behind like
Where it's trapped.
That's
That's part of the trap.
Yeah. Minus 32. So how would you go about something minus integral?
So 2 days ago, I went to the exit, and I got a little note on my car that said ticketing here soon, so I parked.
Is it 2 negatives or negatives?
Negative 2.
You didn't get a ticket, but I didn't get tipped off.
Yesterday, one of my buddies was in my backpack, that's what you gotta think about, like, that's the exact.
My car was
You gotta figure.
I parked legally.
Plus some points.
I always park legally.
I don't.
I've never gotten.
The 3 days they've checked here now that I've stayed cross country once, election once, and I was there.
I can't believe they did.
Tax evasion is like my
What?
favorite thing ever.
What's the equation?
Y equals 4x minus x cubed.
Well, I don't have
And the x-axis.
That's your point. But I just.
Yeah.
X-axis.
No. Yeah, that's, I'm
Okay, and then if we tried to graph this,
It's like $600.
I make a couple quick points, like plug in 0, you get.
Do that instead of the cat notes.
If I plugged in 1, I would get.
No.
If I plugged in 2, I get.
0? What is that, like 99 cents in the app store?
If you're not even.
No, so I don't care what the rest of this graph looks like. Right here, I've got some trapped area.
Okay.
So you want to integrate this between x equals 0 and x equals 2. But you have to think about where these two intersect. So without saying it's trapped at the x-axis, you have to include all of this until your area would be infinity.
So that'd be infinity, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we're going to do that.
It's like legal tax.
I got 33.
Somebody had a question up here?
There's 16 minus x. 51.2. Yep. Yes, it
No, the -4 FR2s that we've done recently. A lot of the questions say find the total distance. Total distance where you can create. If you look at the answer key part of gravity, they can either allow that or there's like 8 other steps to do. So if you want to do it by hand, you have to do 8 other steps. Basically, what you have to do is you have to think about your function, how much area is above the x-axis, or like how much area is below the x-axis to make it positive. So add all those pieces together. But in the exam, they make you do that.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah, we'll have.
Today? I'm not. What? You supposed to do? My name is so good.
Then I'll be pleasantly surprised if I say it.
No, bro. I really get it. I really get the work. You really want to go work on it, right?
I was better than him. That's because he played the scales and I didn't. I could for like 30 seconds. Come up here, you made me a point. And I did.
Oh, that is strange.
Well, it was nobody knows.
No. I'm just here right
Contest back one day. It's a little guy. It's probably going to separate.
You win.
Yeah, that's great.
No, yeah.
Dylan, give up.